Have you ever wondered about the world's greatest bank scam? Who was behind it, and how did they pull it off? Today, we delve into the enigma of Truong My Lan, the chairwoman of Van Thinh Phat, who masterminded an astonishing $12 billion scam. Born and raised in Vietnam, her early life seemed unremarkable. Yet it set the stage for a journey that would etch her name in the annals of financial crime. From her humble beginnings, she ascended to the pinnacle of corporate power, only to leverage it in orchestrating the largest bank scam the world has ever witnessed. As we delve into this intricate web of deceit, we'll explore the motives, the methods, and the monumental impact this scam had, not only on Vietnam's economy, but on the global financial landscape. And so, we begin our journey into the life of Truong My Lan, the woman behind the world's biggest bank scam. Truong My Lan's story begins in Vietnam, far removed from the glitz and glamour of high finance. She was born into a modest family, her parents hardworking individuals who instilled in her the values of diligence and perseverance. Her early life was by no means extraordinary, but it was here in the simplicity of her upbringing that the seeds of ambition were sown. As a child, Truong My Lan was curious and eager to learn. She would often be seen with her nose buried in books, absorbing knowledge about the world around her. This thirst for learning would later become her ticket out of her humble beginnings, and into a world that was as captivating as it was ruthless. As she grew older, Truong My Lan's fascination with numbers and her knack for strategic thinking led her to pursue a career in finance. It was a field that promised both challenge and reward, and Truong My Lan was ready to stake her claim. She started off at the bottom, working long hours, learning the ropes, and slowly but surely climbing the corporate ladder. Her determination and hard work did not go unnoticed. She was recognized for her talents and was swiftly promoted, eventually finding herself at the helm of Van Thinh Phat. As the chairwoman of this financial giant, Truong My Lan had reached a level of success that was once unimaginable. But with great power came great temptation. In the world of high finance, the line between right and wrong can often blur, and for Truong My Lan, the lure of wealth and power would prove to be her downfall. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. From these modest beginnings, Truong My Lan would rise to helm a financial giant. But how did she go from this to masterminding a $12 billion scam? The stage was set for a scam of epic proportions, and Truong My Lan was at the helm. Here's the thing about a scam of this magnitude. It's not a spur-of-the-moment decision, it's a calculated, meticulous plan that requires careful execution and an uncanny ability to keep things under the radar. And Truong My Lan, she had it all. She had been the chairwoman of Van Thinh Phat, a position of extreme power and influence. But it was not the power that was intoxicating, it was the potential for manipulation. You see, to orchestrate a scam of $12 billion, you need more than just a desire to deceive. You need an intricate understanding of the system, the ability to exploit its loopholes, and an unflinching conviction to see it through. Truong My Lan knew the banking system like the back of her hand. She understood its intricacies, its weaknesses, and its blind spots. She used this knowledge to her advantage, setting up a complex network of transactions that were designed to fly under the radar of the banking authorities. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about power, control, and a deep-rooted belief that she was untouchable. And for a while, it seemed like she was. The scam went unnoticed for years, allowing Truong My Lan to amass a fortune that was beyond comprehension. She was careful too. She left no stone unturned in her bid to keep the scam hidden. She maintained a low profile, avoided unnecessary attention, and ensured that her actions would not raise any red flags. It was a masterclass in deception, a lesson in how to manipulate the system to your advantage. But every scam, no matter how well planned, has an expiry date. And Truong My Lan's scam was no different. The stage was set, the players were in place, and the scam was in full swing. With the pieces in place, Truong My Lan was ready to execute her plan. The scam was underway and the world of finance was none the wiser. Truong My Lan was a master of manipulation, her actions hidden beneath the veneer of respectability her position as chairwoman of Van Thinh Phat provided. Her execution of the scam was as audacious as it was intricate. She was no stranger to the inner workings of the financial world, and knew exactly how to exploit its weaknesses. With a keen understanding of the banking system, she navigated the labyrinth of regulations, bypassing safeguards with an ease that was both alarming and awe-inspiring. She created a web of transactions, each one a thread designed to confuse and misdirect anyone who might look too closely. But it wasn't just about manipulation. Truong My Lan was also a master of persuasion. She managed to convince some of the most astute minds in finance to invest in what they believed were sound, profitable ventures. She played on their greed, their ambition, and their trust, ensuring they were too enticed by the promise of high returns to question the legitimacy of her operations. And the scale? It was nothing short of monumental. We're talking about $12 billion. That's billion with a B. An unimaginable sum. It was enough to make this the biggest bank scam in history. $12 billion that were siphoned off, funneled through a myriad of shadowy accounts and ultimately disappeared into thin air. It was a masterclass in deception, a symphony of fraud conducted by a maestro of manipulation. But as with all things, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. So how did the world finally catch on to Truong My Lan's grand deception? The scale of the deception was staggering, but all scams must come to an end. So how was Truong My Lan finally caught? The house of cards was about to come tumbling down. Every intricate scheme, no matter how masterfully crafted, has its breaking point. And for Truong My Lan, that point arrived with the exposure of her $12 billion scam. It all unraveled when a routine audit by the central bank revealed discrepancies that couldn't be swept under the rug. The numbers didn't add up, and the auditors, like bloodhounds on a trail, began to dig deeper. What they unearthed was a financial scam of epic proportions, orchestrated by none other than the chairwoman of Van Thin Phat herself. The aftermath was immediate and severe. Truong My Lan, once a respected figure in the financial world, was now the architect of the biggest bank scam in history. The shock, the disbelief, was palpable. The woman who had climbed the ranks and held such power was now a pariah, her name synonymous with deceit and fraud. The consequences for Truong My Lan were swift. Legal proceedings were initiated and she was promptly removed from her position at Van Thin Phat. The law, unyielding in its pursuit of justice, came down hard. Truong My Lan, the woman at the helm of this immense financial misdeed, was sentenced to a lengthy prison term. But what of Truong My Lan now? Behind bars, she no longer wields the power she once had. The opulent lifestyle, the influence, the respect, all stripped away as the iron doors of her cell closed behind her. A stark reminder of the downfall that follows unchecked ambition and unscrupulous actions. The scam was over, but the shockwaves it sent through the financial world were just beginning. The world watched in stunned silence as the magnitude of this scandal unfolded, a vivid testament to the far-reaching implications of such a colossal financial crime. Truong My Lan's scam had far-reaching consequences, not just for her, but for Vietnam and the world economy. The fallout from this audacious $12 billion heist was like a shockwave, causing ripples that were felt across the globe. The Vietnamese economy, already in a precarious balance, was hit hard. Trust in financial institutions plummeted as the public reeled from the scale of the fraud. Investments slowed down, and the local currency, the dong, took a nosedive. The economic growth that Vietnam had been enjoying was abruptly halted, as the country struggled to recover from this massive blow. Internationally, the effects were equally profound. Markets around the world wavered as investors became nervous. The scam raised questions about the security of banking systems and the effectiveness of financial regulation. Global economies, already dealing with their own challenges, now had to contend with the instability caused by this scandal. In response to the crisis, financial authorities around the world scrambled to tighten their regulations. The scam served as a wake-up call, highlighting the need for more stringent checks and balances. The global banking community had to reassess their systems, and reforms were implemented to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. But perhaps the most significant impact was on the public's trust in the financial system. The audacity of Lan's scam shook people's faith in banking institutions. The idea that such a massive fraud could occur under the watch of financial regulators was a bitter pill to swallow. Confidence in the system was shattered, and restoring it would take time and significant effort. Truong My Lan's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and greed in the financial world. Her actions had consequences that went far beyond her own downfall, affecting millions of people and shaking the global economy to its core. Truong My Lan's tale is one of ambition, deception, and downfall. A woman hailing from modest beginnings, she rose to the pinnacle of the financial world, only to orchestrate one of the largest bank scams in history, a staggering $12 billion. Her journey from her birth and upbringing in Vietnam to her ascension as the chairwoman of Van Thinfat, and finally her downfall, offers a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition and greed. The scam's repercussions were far-reaching, not only destabilizing Vietnam's economy, but sending shockwaves through the world's financial markets. As we examine Truong My Lan's life, we're confronted with the question of how such large-scale frauds can occur, and what measures can be put in place to prevent them. The story of Truong My Lan serves as a stark reminder that the pursuit of wealth, power, and prestige can often come at a great cost, not only to the individual, but to society as a whole. What do you think of Truong My Lan's story? How do you think such large-scale scams can be prevented in the future? Share your thoughts in the comments below.